The first ever InboundShovel Game Jam has just finished. Nearly 5,000 people joined, and over the course of 10 days, they created 1,165 games centered around the theme, Just Get Started. I picked this theme because I wanted the jam to be an excuse for beginners to actually get started making games, and the beginners showed up. 755 of the games in the jam were created by people who have never done a game jam before, and in the top 100 games, 49 of them were created by beginners, including 5 in the top 10. So total newbies made about half of the best games in the jam, and there were so many great games. There were games with absolutely gorgeous artwork, some of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. There were super fun, super polished 3D adventures, games with great stories, games with incredibly unique mechanics, just a truly astonishing number of awesome games. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about the top 15 games from the jam. We have 8 honorable mentions and 7 prize money winners, including the special prize that can only be won by a beginner. Now, if you participated in the jam, that number might surprise you, because we originally only had 6 prizes. But this video was sponsored by Kotti, which allowed me to add another prize money winner to the group. But more on Kotti later. I want to get to the games. Okay. One of the cool things you can do with the theme of Just Get Started is to invert it and make a game about procrastination, where your goal is to procrastinate, and you lose if you actually get started. And that's exactly what Apol and Bora did for their game, Never Gonna Start. In this game, you play as the procrastination monkey that's living inside of someone else's mind, and you're desperately fighting off their neurons to make sure they can't get started on work. As the neurons touch the brain, it starts to focus, and if it reaches full focus, you lose. You have 2 options for dealing with neurons. First, you have a dash that deals damage to any neurons you hit, and when a neuron dies, it leaves behind its corpse, which you can pick up and throw. Then, as you kill neurons, you level up, which grants you access to a choice of 3 upgrades. You can make yourself faster, debuff enemies, or you can spec into a specific combat type, like a throwing build or a dashing build. These upgrades are really well balanced, and it makes each new run feel exciting and unique. And yeah, the gameplay is super fun, but honestly, my favorite part is the monkey. His animations are so good. The way he squishes down when he picks up a corpse, or his stunned animations, which include flexing his arm to the camera to show off, or turning into a PNG of a real monkey. It's a game that's bursting with flavor, as well as being an incredibly clever take on the theme. Now, another cool way to interpret the theme is by making a bunch of WarioWare-style microgames, where you're constantly just getting started on a new game. And This Is Just the Beginning by Omnitail nailed it. Not only are you getting started on a bunch of different microgames, but each of those microgames is based on an iconic starting moment from a classic video game. For example, mashing through the text from the owl in Ocarina of Time, or collecting all the friendliness pellets from Flowey. It's the most inspired use of the theme in the jam, and it's not even particularly close. And doing the whole game in the Game Boy Color palette? It's like a love letter to classic gaming, and I enjoyed every second of it. Now, before I can talk about the next game, I need to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, Kotti. When Kotti first reached out to me, they said they are specifically making a service for beginners, self-learners, and aspiring developers. And as this jam probably showed you, I love beginners, self-learners, and aspiring developers. So I was super excited to see that they are essentially making Duolingo, but for learning how to program. And I think these sort of gamified, daily check-in, streak-based apps are really, really good for learning. I mean, take it from me. I have a 230-day streak in Duolingo for Japanese, and you can pry that streak from my cold, dead hands. Or should I say, watashi wa atamagai janai desu. But I think that Kotti is a fantastic way for beginners to continue improving their programming skills. They offer you short and quick daily lessons that keep you coming back so you can preserve your streak. And those lessons have cool, interactive challenges to make it actually fun and interesting for you. Plus, they have a personalization system, so they ask you a bunch of questions and then tailor your lesson path based on what you actually want to learn. And the best part is that it's free up to a certain amount of usage per day, which is all you need if you're using it the intended way. Obviously, the jam was based around the idea of just getting started, but Kotti exists to help you keep it going. So if you're looking to continue improving your programming skills, you should go to kotti.tech and give it a try. All right, let's get back to the games. Okay, another game that I just really liked is A Favor for the Alchemist by Behind the Pickle. In this game, you play as an apprentice to an unnamed alchemist, and the alchemist has left his tower to attend to something in town. The important thing is that his material condenser has stopped working, and he needs you to get it started. Now, the gameplay for this is basically just an escape room, but it's a really good one. You walk around the alchemist's tower, reading his notes, collecting alchemical ingredients, and solving a whole bunch of puzzles, all in the pursuit of figuring out how to get this material condenser started back up. It's a well-designed, super enjoyable 30-minute puzzle experience, and if you love escape rooms, then you'll love this game too. A lot of developers made emotional, story-driven games, sharing their own difficulties around getting started with their creative projects. Some focused on how they feel left behind because they keep comparing themselves to others, or they shared their story about how they overcame their insecurities to ask their friends for help. But out of all the narrative-based games, my favorite was Free Time by Blossoming Garden. In this game, you play as the newly retired Martin, as he struggles to recontextualize his life now that he has all this free time. You watch as he discovers just how much he pushed the most important things in his life to the side while trying to be successful. But the game has a hopeful tone. It is a cautionary tale about self-neglect, but Martin is able to reclaim his hobbies, showing the player that it's never too late to start taking care of yourself. And once you pair this extremely well-written story with gorgeous artwork and the best music in the entire jam, you end up with a truly beautiful game. And I think that it's so courageous, in a jam filled with games about people berating themselves for not chasing their goals hard enough, to make a game reminding everyone about why they're chasing those goals in the first place. But now that we've talked about narrative games, we need to talk about meta-narrative games, because this theme sure made a lot of you get real meta. You heard the theme was just get started and thought, you know what? I'm gonna get rid of the start button. And all right, you got me, fair enough. But first, I'd like to give a quick shout out to The Journey Begins by Bing J, which is a game where the narrator just wants you to start playing the actual game instead of messing around. It's obviously inspired by the Stanley Parable, but it quickly devolves into a FNAF-style horror game. It has some difficulty issues in the beginning, but it's incredibly creative, one of the most creative games in the jam, and I had a really good time with it. But my favorite meta-narrative game was Clickbait by Upsprite Games. This game is all about pressing the start button. However, when you try to click it, it teleports away from your mouse cursor. Now, there are a bunch of different ways that you can press the start button. You can dress up your cursor as a ninja and sneak up on it, or blow a hole in the wall of the title screen, and then chase the start button into a bear trap. There's a platforming section where your cursor has to climb all the way up to the button, and there's even a shooting game where your mouse cursor dresses up in a high visibility safety vest, and it's so cute. And after you've figured out all the different ways of pressing the button, there's a final boss fight to destroy the virus inside of the start button that was causing it to misbehave in the first place. This game has all the charm of one of those old Newgrounds Flash games, and the developers remembered that it wasn't enough just to have a clever meta-narrative, you also have to make the gameplay around it really fun. Alright, the theme might have been pretty meta, but this was a game jam, which means there were a ton of platformers and a ton of puzzle platformers. So I've decided to pick one of each for the honorable mentions. First up is the platformer. Now, there were several that I really liked. For example, One Step Forward has really clean movement and incredible art. And Get Started Curse was full of great ideas, using their curse mechanic in a really cool way. It Starts Raining was super simple, but super well designed, and Copy Robot was a frenetic fever dream of a game with a really fun core concept. But my favorite platformer was Pursuit by Super Freak. Now, this game is also a meta-narrative, where you accidentally break the play button at the start, and the rest of the game is spent playing as the close game button, collecting the pieces so that you can rebuild that play button. And even though this is just the framing of what is otherwise a standard but well-made 2D platformer, it's used in a lot of creative ways. There are pop-up enemies that you kill by clicking their close button. There are obstacles in the level that get removed by clicking an option button. The extending platforms or progress bars, and you get the gist of it. It's a very cute way of incorporating the theme, and the writing around it is really good. There were several moments that made me laugh out loud while I was playing, like when the developer called me out for missing this dash. It's just a fun platformer with great writing and a super creative use of the theme. But that brings me to the best puzzle platformer. There were some really good ones, like Toggle, for example. But there was one puzzle platformer that was leaps and bounds ahead of the competition. And that game was Frickin' Jeff by Jumpy Nep. In Frickin' Jeff, you play as the titular Jeff, a stickman trying to make his way to the flag on each level. It has a super cute paper aesthetic, and the first few levels are standard platforming, until you hit a room that you can't actually finish. And that's when Jeff busts out the Post-it note. You can draw on this Post-it note and then stick it to the paper, and whatever you drew becomes part of the level. So now you have to figure out what kind of platform would help you make it to the flag and then add it yourself. This is already really fun, but then the game takes it a step further, because if you hide part of the original level with the Post-it note, that part of the level no longer exists. So you can stick the Post-it note over walls to create holes in them, completely reshaping the map however you want to. And then the game gives you the ability to rip up your Post-it note and put a new one down, which makes for a super fun puzzle experience, where now you're planning what changes you want to make in the level and the order you want to change it in. It's a really clever mechanic, used in a super unique way, and it makes for an awesome game. Now, before we talk about the last honorable mention, I want to shout out two games that were really fun, but just barely missed out on the top 15. First, InboundShovel, which was an incredibly unique mountain climbing game with beautiful art and a really good title. Like, I might change a couple letters, but overall, this title kind of slaps, right? And also, Rise of the Demon Lord, which is a really fun deck building RPG with truly unbelievable artwork. It looks so good. But that brings me to the final honorable mention, and that game is Director's Cut. In this game, you play as a director, trying to guide your little actor robots to the spotlight. You wind them up and then they start moving, and they don't stop. You have to build the level around them as they go, making sure they avoid danger while also getting them to gather as many collectibles as they can. It's really satisfying to make a plan for how you want the level to go before you even start up the bots, and then execute on it perfectly. But it's also fun to just charge the bots up immediately and wing it, improvising the whole time. And as you can clearly see, this game is unbelievably polished. Some of the most beautiful pixel art in the entire jam, some of the best music in the entire jam, and all wrapped up in a package that's absolutely bursting with charm. This game was the very last one I cut from the winners. It's basically the runner-up. It's so good, and it has a ton of potential. More bots with more unique abilities and some more stages, and you easily have a game that I'd happily drop 20 bucks for on Steam. But now, we've finished with the honorable mentions, and it's time to talk about the winners. Now, there were a couple puzzle games that used the theme in a really cool way, where they played with the concept of what restarting a level actually means. For example, I want to give a quick shout out to Not Quite a Retry, where your player keeps their momentum when you restart the level. What would normally be a bug is turned into a key mechanic for solving puzzles, and the game is super fun as a result. But the game that got the overall highest rating in the jam, the winner of the community award, is Nullus. In Nullus, restarting the level restarts everything, except for the player. So you can push obstacles out of the way to move forward, and then restart the level so those obstacles end up behind you. It seems simple at first, but the game continues adding interesting new mechanics like no reloading zones where obstacles can't be restarted, or moving traps that follow a set path on every restart. And suddenly the game is a total mind bender, where you're desperately trying to remember the starting state of the room so that you can exploit it. And the puzzle design is immaculate. Almost every room feels totally impossible at first, until you're able to reorient your thinking around the restart mechanic, and then boom, the solution to the puzzle hits you. And that's just the fantastic puzzle design. The game itself is super juicy, with great presentation, and even a bit of a mysterious story going on. I won't spoiler the ending for you, but it is very interesting. So if you're looking for a satisfying puzzle game, I can highly recommend giving Nullus a try. And that brings us to our guest judge, INSANDIO. She did a bunch of work behind the scenes to make sure the jam ran as smoothly as it could, and I cannot thank her enough for everything she did. Without her, this jam wouldn't have been possible, and she played a ton of games to pick her favorite. She's releasing a video right after mine where she talks about her favorite games and why she picked them, including picking 2 more honorable mentions, which will also get the honorable mentions badge in Discord. So make sure you check out her video right after this one. But I will announce her favorite game, which falls into the surprisingly popular category of games about your computer, because there were a ton of really cool and really clever games about trying to get your PC to boot up correctly, or trying to fight off viruses that are invading your PC. But Insandio's favorite game in the jam was Restricted by Assistant by RKI 3000. In this game, your goal is to play the hit new game, Super Giorgio, but unfortunately, the assistant built into your computer won't let you open it because he thinks it's a virus. However, he has some ideas on how you could potentially solve the problem, and this takes you through a wild adventure, playing through a ton of really fun minigames, trying to get access to Super Giorgio. In a word, this game is delightful. There's a huge variety of fun minigames that you get to quickly enjoy before moving on, and the writing is absolutely hilarious. The whole time I was playing, I got the sense that everything in the game was put there for me to have a good time. And the result is that I had a really good time. And if you want more details on why Insandio picked it, check out her video and go play it for yourself. It's really good. Now, the next prize is the extra one that I added. Me and Insandio were arguing over who got to claim this next game for their honorable mentions, and we decided that the compromise was to add an extra prize for it. I guess you could call it the "we both love this game too much to skip over it" award. And the winner of this bonus prize is Time Golf. You know the stasis mechanic from Breath of the Wild where you freeze an object and then whack the hell out of it and send it flying? Imagine that, but done to a golf ball. It's honestly brilliant, and it fits the theme perfectly. You start the early levels off just absolutely yeeting the golf ball into the goal, and that's already really fun. But then the game adds obstacles, and now you can stop time and send crates and rocks flying to move them out of the way of your ball. Then the obstacles start moving. So now you're trying to stop time at the right moment to launch your ball through the moving obstacle. And then you're stopping time to redirect the ball mid-flight like it's some sort of anime battle scene. It just continues building more and more excitement on top of a really smart gameplay mechanic to make for an incredibly fun experience. Next up, we have our third place winner, Trashbot. In this game, you play as an old, discarded game console who has completely forgotten all of his games, which means he doesn't know how to platform anymore. But you can collect game cartridges, which give you access to a specific ability, like you can pick up a hover cartridge and use it to cross over a gap. However, using the ability also uses up the cart. So without a jump cart, you can't even jump, you're locked to the ground. Now, the game starts by using these carts to guide your platforming, chaining a jump into picking up another one along a linear path. But once you unlock a second and third cartridge slot to carry more abilities, the game really opens up and turns into this awesome combo-based puzzle platformer, blending together platforming elements and puzzle elements really well. And there was even an idea of a boss fight in one of the earlier levels, and it was a really simple one, but it's easy to imagine how this cartridge pickup gameplay could lend itself to some extremely fun boss fights, using special game cards for that boss. Honestly, when I got to the end of this game, I just really wanted there to be more levels to play with, because the ones I had already played through were incredible. I really hope we get to see more of Trashbot in the future. And now, I want to announce the second place winner, Sleepy Battery Bots. I know, 2 robot games in a row, but this one couldn't be more different than the last. In Sleepy Battery Bots, you play as Battery Boy, who is a robot, I think, and your only ability is to shoot out battery juice, which I will be calling energy from now on. Now, your energy can't hurt the enemies, but it can charge up your robot defenders. Now, your defenders all function differently, like the Crusher, who does damage in a big area when he gets fully charged, or the Shocker, who can stun and knock back enemies. These 2 bots activate their abilities when they get fully charged, but then they need to be charged up again. On the other hand, you have bots like the Susie. When you activate her, she becomes a turret, and you don't need to activate her again until the next wave. And every time you finish a wave, you get to pick a new robot defender to add to your team. You can either place them as a standalone bot, or you can combine them with an existing bot to upgrade it to a higher level, complete with a new, extremely charming sprite. The one-time activation bots instantly get a huge benefit from being upgraded, because activating their ability is now much stronger. However, the turret bots have to be powered all the way up to their higher level every wave. And on top of that, there are different enemy types that require different bots to deal with them. For example, your turret bots can't actually see the phantom bugs, so if you don't have like a Crusher ready to deal with them, they'll rip through all your structures. So the game quickly becomes about proper battery maintenance. Where do you invest your energy to survive the wave? And it's incredibly fun. The mechanics all work together beautifully. And in its current state, it's a fantastic game. But this is another game with a huge amount of potential. If you expanded this with new bots, new maps, new objectives, and maybe even some kind of perk system for the Battery Boy, you'd have an absolute smash hit on your hands. Now, all that's left are the 2 most coveted prizes, the #1 newbie and the overall first place official winner of the jam. Before I announce the #1 newbie, I need to tell you all that it was extremely difficult to choose. So many beginners submitted so many awesome games to this jam. You already heard about Frickin' Jeff and Director's Cut, which were both amazing beginner games that I almost gave this award to. But I am so proud of all the beginners who took this chance to actually start making games. No matter the results of the jam, you should consider yourself a winner. And because of that, I want to quickly shout out 5 more really awesome beginner games before I announce the final 2 winners. And those shoutouts are Featherweather, a really awesome monkey ball style physics game. Start on Time, a super stylish momentum-based platformer where you launch yourself at the beginning and see how far you can run. Geometry Dash, which is an extremely difficult but very fun boss rush game. The Creation Story, where you're trying to make a video game, but you keep getting attacked by monsters. And finally, Boot You Up, a really fun puzzle game where you play as an AI trying to escape the computer that it's confined to. But I can delay no longer. Without any further ado, the #1 newbie and the best game from a beginner in the jam was A Swift Journey by Fane Luna. In this game, you play as a newly trained samurai, incapable of fighting back against the more experienced opponents, so your only option is to parry their attacks by moving away from them as they attack, slowly wearing down their stamina until you can finally strike. And when you land that strike, you win. Once the battle has started, it's over. Then, after the first 2 fights, the game introduces bash attacks, which are attacks that the enemy will use, but you shouldn't parry. If you parry a bash attack, you get stunned, and the enemy will either kill you right away, or launch into a faster, more difficult attack to parry. Now, these mechanics on their own aren't enough to carry the game. What really brings this game to the next level is that the boss design is absolutely perfect. Each boss has their own attack patterns and combo animations, and these attacks are fast with a bunch of bashes thrown in. They're nearly impossible to react to the first time you see them. But as you get ruthlessly slaughtered by the boss over and over again, you learn the pattern. And the animations are super clean, so once you learn the pattern, you can spot the wind-up animation and parry a huge complicated attack combo perfectly, over and over again, even though you were just getting stomped into the dirt by it. This game gives me exactly the same feeling I get playing Black Myth Wukong. Like, I died over and over and over again to this stupid tiger boss, and in the first couple tries when I fought him, he seemed completely impossible. But with each attempt I learned his patterns a little bit more, until he couldn't touch me. A Swift Journey is that exact feeling, but condensed way down to its essence. If you love the really difficult but satisfying boss fights in Hollow Knight or Black Myth Wukong, you will love A Swift Journey. Somehow, Fane Luna did in 10 days what I've been working on for years in Isadora's Edge. But that brings us to the #1 entry, the very best game in the jam. The winner of the first ever InboundShovel Game Jam is Morning Starter by Monarch. This game is incredible. You play as a scientist in charge of nuclear fusion, working on the Dyson Sphere Zeta, with your goal being to revive a dead sun so you can bring about a new morning. You do this by launching elements into the Dyson reactor ring, trying to fuse your way up to element 118. And this might sound extremely complicated, but actually, the ring just fuses together elements that have the same number. And if there are two of the same element on either side of a fusion, those elements get sucked into the fusion as well. This allows you to set up extremely satisfying fusion combos. And the game doesn't just give you elements for your ring, it can also generate other cool particles to help you with your combos, like the muon, which allows you to forcibly combine two elements together, or the antiproton, which lets you pull an element out of your ring and transform it into another element. And you can buy items that can generate these special particles, or items that just manipulate the state of the ring directly. So you get the ability to craft super intricate plans for pulling off incredible combos. It's like Game and Balatro, how do you say Balatro? It's like Game and Balatro had a strange chemistry-based baby, because you get all the best stuff from Game with setting up the chain reactions and fusing stuff together, combined with the high-score chasing strategic gameplay of Balatro. And one of the best aspects of this game is that the core spawns new elements based on the highest value element in the ring. This means you can end up in a state where there are dead elements on your board, because you fused too quickly or you didn't set up your combo properly, and now you no longer have access to the elements you need to fuse them. You can hope for a special particle or shop item to clear that dead element, but if you build up too many of them, your ring can end up unsavable without some kind of galaxy brain maneuver to wiggle your way out of it. And that's what's so great about the game. There's so much opportunity for strategy, and you need to think as many turns ahead as you possibly can, and be willing to pivot your plans on a dime based on what the game offers you. It's a stupidly replayable game, and it's extremely fun every single time. If this game is polished up to be a full game for Steam, I'm confident that it will be a ridiculous success. And that's it! Those are the 15 best games from the first ever InboundShovel Game Jam. This jam went so much better than I ever could have anticipated, and the community that's been formed around it is amazing. So if you haven't joined my Discord and want to make games, you should get in there. It's full of the most lovely game devs you'll ever meet. And moving forward, I'm going to be streaming every Friday, playing games from the community, to give feedback and to get eyes on all the awesome projects that you all are working on. I think it's amazing that so many people were able to just get started with game development thanks to this jam, and I want to build a community that helps you all keep it going. And you'll want to be there when we announce the second InboundShovel Game Jam next year, because we're definitely running it back. But now it's time for you all to check out INSANDIO's video to find out if you got one of those last two honorable mention slots. And the two games she picked are really good. If she didn't take them, they probably would have been in my list, so good luck. I'll see you next time.